Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Thanks for being here, and welcome to Long Beach City College. Some of you make this your home, so thank you for being here. Some of you are visiting us, so thank you for visiting Long Beach City College. We have the opportunity today to have a very timely conversation that certainly we've been having here at Long Beach City College for a number of years, and a conversation that needs to continue to include more people, to get much louder, and to really start translating into action. So I welcome this opportunity to welcome the White House, and particularly Juan Sepulveda, who is the director of the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him. Again, thank you for being here. And Juan, welcome to Long Beach City College.
Good morning to everyone. Thanks for coming out this morning. I wanted to say thanks to President Oakley for having us here. A couple of folks were asking me at the beginning, how did we decide to come out to Long Beach City College? And here's the answer. You guys are famous. There are a lot of folks who are doing incredible work with community colleges and four-year colleges across the country. And as we've been putting together our community conversation tours, we've checked in with them because they know where a lot of the great and interesting things are happening. And so while it's important for us to get to different parts of the country, we're also very interested in making sure that we're highlighting and getting to showcase some really interesting institutions who are doing great things. So when we were talking about coming to California and kind of coming to the LA region, a number of our friends who are at the Lumina Foundation, working with lots of the different organizations, said, you've got to go to Long Beach City. They're doing incredible things, and in particular, there's a program called Equity Matters that they've been working on for a long time that's been doing some great things. You need to be there with President Oakley. They're just really making things happen. So you all should feel very proud. I mean, a big part of the reason we're here is because people are talking about Long Beach City and some of the great things that you all are doing. And you'll see as we talk today, part of what we're doing with the White House Initiative is not just being at places and being able to show folks in the community and highlighting the great things that are happening, but we want to be able to take what you're doing here at Long Beach City and talk to the folks in San Antonio so they know what's happening, and share with the folks in New York or San Juan or just across the country for all the folks who are dealing with a lot of the same issues, so that we can kind of learn from each other, not have to start from scratch, and not feel like that we're out there by ourselves trying to figure out a lot of these issues. So you guys should, big round of applause for Long Beach City and for President Oakley for all the great work that you all are doing here. As we get started, a couple things. One is wanted to check in on an important issue. We have someone here who's been with us, who's helping out us a lot, who's helping us on signing and interpretation. So I just wanted to check to see if anyone needed her services this morning. If not, we're going to go ahead and release her. She's got some other great things she's doing for us as well. So I just wanted to see, does anyone need her services? If not, we just wanted to say thank you very much for kind of helping us out. As we get started, a couple things I wanted to do. One is I wanted to make sure you got a chance to meet some of the folks who are here as part of our team, who are both from the Education Department, part of the White House Initiative, and also someone that we've got here who is from our regional office in San Francisco. Because as we start this conversation with you here today, we know it's just starting. It's going to be an ongoing set of conversations. And I want to make sure that you've got other connections and other entry points into the government as we're as you're going to need help with other things as you're moving forward. So I just wanted our team to kind of come up and introduce themselves to you so they can tell you, you can meet them, see what they're doing, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day.
Good morning. My name is Will Tanner, and I'm in the Office of Communication and Outreach at the U.S. Department of Education, and I work primarily with our nonprofit and education associations.
Morning, I'm Gloria Marnosal. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager for the White House Initiative.
Good morning, I'm Donato Tapia. I'm the San Francisco Regional Office representative for the White House Initiative. And don't ask me for business cards, because all my information is here, and the other venues have taken them all. Thank you.
So big round of applause for the folks who are here with us today. Tracy's outside as well, too. I think a lot of you got a chance to meet her when you were signing up today to kind of come into the conversation. But I just wanted to make sure you got a chance to meet some of the other folks so that you can get connected to them. Donato's up in the Office of Civil Rights in our San Francisco office. So you've got him as a connection here in California. Okay, let's jump in. A couple things to talk about. First of all, in addition to our office, there are 3 other White House initiatives that have an emphasis on education. So there's 4 total, and then there's a 5th office that I want to mention to you. So I want to give you a little sense of a little bit of a lay of the land, so you can also see some of our partners in the work that we're doing, other folks that I think it'll be important for you to know about and to get connected to as we're moving forward, and you all are moving forward with your work. So in addition to our White House initiative on educational excellence for Hispanic Americans, I told Gloria Mato she's got to figure out a shorter name for us. In addition to ours, there are 2 existing White House initiatives. There is the White House Initiative on Historical Black Colleges and Universities. Dr. John Wilson was just hired by us and just started a couple weeks ago. He's now on board to kind of lead our efforts with HBCUs. There is a 3rd existing White House initiative which is aimed at tribal colleges and universities. We haven't hired the new director yet, but we're literally in interviews right now. I'm actually on the phone as I'm here in California this week doing interviews, so we're getting closer to having the new director on board. We're hoping that's going to happen within the next month. And there's a 4th new White House initiative. President Obama, as a candidate during the campaign, made a pledge, and we're going to be rolling out, and you're going to be hearing in the announcement in the next few months, of a 4th White House initiative office aimed at education that's going to be focusing on the Asian and Pacific Islander community. So those 4 make up the 4 different White House initiative offices that are aimed at targeted communities on education. Here's a crazy idea. We're all going to work together. And so Dr. John Wilson is right next door to me, so we're already kind of working together. We've actually, and Gloria Mato is going to love to hear this, we've been talking about it, but as we're getting out and doing our community conversations now, just to give you a preview of what's going to be coming down later in the fall and moving into next year, John and I have talked about he's doing a number of his conversations with the historical black colleges, but we've talked about how important it is for John and myself to kind of get on the road and do it together and make sure that we're having conversations with the African American community, the Latino community together to kind of deal with a lot of the shared interests that we have as a community. But across the board, making sure that all of our initiatives are talking to each other and working together. There's a 5th office that I wanted to mention quickly, and that's the Center on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership Offices. So at the Education Department, there's a man named Peter Groff, Groff, who heads our office for us. Peter was the first African American to head the Colorado State Senate, so he just gave up his seat as an elected official to kind of come join the team. He heads our efforts that are aimed at the faith community and at nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations. So I wanted to mention his name as well, because obviously so much of the work you're doing can't take place without the faith community, can't take place without our nonprofit organizations, our community-based organizations. So all 5 of us are kind of working together on these kind of key issues that are really kind of looking at the educational system. So I wanted to mention all of those to you. And in an aside, Peter heads the Education Department's Center on Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnership Offices. But you should know, because I know here at Long Beach City and so many other places, you all are working on lots of different issues that get you connected at times or could get you connected to housing and urban development, to health and human services, to so many other agencies. So you should also know that there are 12 Peter Groffs. There are 11 other agencies that have their own centers on faith-based and neighborhood partnership offices. So keep that in mind. So if you're doing work with any of those other agencies, there's always going to be another ally for you there to kind of get you connected to kind of help our faith-based groups and our nonprofit groups kind of get connected as well. Today, I'm not going to spend tons of time going through all of the details of the different programs that we're rolling out. So I wanted to mention 2 websites to you up front so that you can kind of go to these sites, bookmark them, make them some of your favorites, because there's a lot of great information that's there and that we're going to be rolling out all the time. The first one is the Education Department's website. Try to make it easy, ed.gov. So ed.gov. is the Education Department's website. That's the first one I wanted to mention. The second one is whitehouse.gov. So whitehouse.gov, and you'll see on both of those that both are great places to go to get even more details about a lot of the new initiatives that are getting rolled out, a lot of the new programs. I'm going to give you some of the headlines of a number of them today, but I'm not going to go through all of them, so make sure you kind of visit the sites as frequently as you can, because there's just a lot of stuff going on right now and a lot of new things that are kind of being added to both sites. Let me tell you about our initiative that's aimed at the Latino community. Here's the first question I always ask folks when we've been having these community conversations, and be honest. Y'all can be honest with me. Let's see the number of hands before you received an invitation to come to this event today. How many of you knew there was a White House initiative aimed at the Latino community? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe a half dozen. Okay. That's what we found out pretty quickly, was that unless you were tied into D.C. politics, unless you were tied into kind of national educational politics, chances are you had no clue there was a White House initiative. The White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanic Americans has been around since 1990. And so, it was a different time when it was started, in a different political environment. But with President Obama, with Secretary Duncan, as we talked about what are we going to do with the initiative now in the Obama administration, no surprise to you here in the room when you have a president who's a former community organizer. And all of us who've also done a lot of community organizing, we knew that it was important to kind of get out and get ourselves introduced. We said, if the community doesn't know we're out there, why are we even doing this? And so that's why we started to do these series of community conversations, really for 3 reasons. The first one is just to let you know, hey, we're here. We exist. There's us and a number of other White House initiatives that are out there that you should know about in the community so that you can get connected to us. That's kind of the first goal, is just so that you know we're here. The second goal, which is where we're going to spend most of the time today, is for me to get a chance to hear from you all directly, what should we be doing? Getting your direct feedback when we think about the entire educational system and we think about trying to get more Latino kids successfully through the system. What's your best advice to the president, to the secretary, to us about what the key issues are, what the big challenges are, what you think the priorities should be for us moving forward? So that's the second goal, just to kind of get your direct feedback. My first task as the director is to create the new executive order. So I'm here today to tell you that we don't know what we're going to do yet, because it's all going to be determined by what we hear in the community conversations. So you're going to get a chance. What your advice to us is what we're going to take to be able to set the priorities and set the agenda for us. So the content of what we're hearing back from you is crucial, because it's going to tell us what you believe we should be working on and what you all can kind of help us with kind of moving forward. So that's the second goal, is just to kind of get your direct feedback today. And then the third piece is getting you to sign up with us, getting you to partner with us. We know that we can't do this by ourselves. You all can't do it by yourselves. We need each other. Like I mentioned earlier, making sure that folks know about what you're doing here at Long Beach City and kind of sharing with folks around the country, learning from folks in other parts of the country what they're doing with some of the issues that you're struggling with. But that kind of national network of us coming together as a community and getting you all to be able to partner with folks from other parts of the community, really signing up to kind of work together, is kind of the third goal of what we're trying to kind of accomplish with these community conversations. We started about a month ago in Texas. I grew up in Kansas, but I've been in San Antonio for the last 20-some years. That's home now. So we started in Texas with about a half dozen cities. We've been in California this week. By the first week of October, we will have visited, I will have visited, and our team will have visited 18 states and Puerto Rico, 35 different communities. So we really want to kind of get out there. And just so you know, the education department as a whole, we've made a commitment, and this is happening. We're not the only ones. It's happening at all the other agencies as well. But we've made a commitment to visit all 50 states and all the territories by the end of the year, because we know it's important for us to get out there to kind of make that happen. Now, we're helping out a lot because we're getting to 18 of them and Puerto Rico. But we just know it's important to kind of get out to the community to kind of make it happen. So that's kind of the breadth of the community conversations that we're kind of having moving forward. So introducing ourselves to you, hearing from you, getting you to sign up for us is what we're trying to kind of get done as we have these conversations. I am going to, if we can get a help with a slide. Will's going to help me right here. Okay, and so what I want to do is just spend a couple of minutes to kind of give you the headlines of President Obama's education agenda before we jump into our conversation. Here's kind of the educational pipeline. Early childhood education, birth to age 5. You know, we know, the research tells us how critical this period is. If our kids don't have high-quality early childhood education, they're in trouble by the time they start in the K-12 system. So we are investing the largest amount of money ever in American history, $5 billion that's been kind of placed right here to encourage the states not just to increase kind of early childhood education, but making sure that we've got high-quality early childhood education so that our kids get what they need at this stage. So we've set the foundation, and they're ready to go by the time they get through K-12. Short and sweet, largest investment here, big movement with the states to try to get higher quality early childhood education. K-12, big piece. This is huge, right? This is where the largest numbers are in terms of dollars, in terms of students, in terms of the challenges that we've got going on in the system. And so there are 4 kind of pillars to President Obama's education agenda. And one thing I should have said, I'm jumping straight into it, I should have mentioned up front, in so many of these conversations, part of your job and part of our job a lot of times is to kind of convince the president and the key folks that education should be an important agenda item. I'm here to tell you today, you don't have to worry about trying to push us on that one. It's a done deal. It's always been at the top of the list for President Obama when he was a U.S. senator, as a state senator. And so you'll see as I talk about some of the headlines today, you'll see kind of how we're matching. It's easy to say education is an agenda. The question is always, we always should say, folks, don't tell me what you believe in, show me your budget, right? So we'll see if the dollars are there to kind of match it. And you'll see what I'm going to be talking about today, some of the largest investments kind of in federal government history to show kind of President Obama's kind of commitment to education. So K-12, 4 pillars that are really kind of the key to our agenda kind of moving forward for the president. The first piece is around national standards and assessments. So currently, there are 50 different standards. So if your son or daughter is kind of going through the system and you're wondering what it's like for them and what are they going to get by the time they graduate high school, right now there's 50 different things that could happen depending on where you live in the country. We don't think that's a good idea. We don't think there should be a difference in what you get out of your K-12 education based solely on where you live. That if you're in California and somehow your family moved across to Nevada, that somehow it would either go up or down. That doesn't make sense to us. And so we are working with the states to say, what does it mean to create a rigorous, tough, great curriculum and standard for kids across the country, that no matter where you live, that's what the standard is. So that's what we're doing right now, is to kind of move away from 50 different versions of what's kind of happening in terms of the education our kids are getting based solely on where they live, to one that says across the board, here's what we think should be happening in terms of the standards for our kids across the country. Now, the worst thing we could do would be to kind of come from D.C. and say, there's one national standard, and here it is. So the president understands. He's a smart man. He understands what we need to do and how. Here's another crazy idea. Maybe we should have the states kind of helping us figure this out. So 49 of the 50 states, I'm not going to mention the 50th, we're working on them, but 49 of the 50 states are currently sitting around the table trying to figure it out. What are the standards going to be for math? What are the standards going to be for reading? What should they be if we're really going to raise the standards and make sure that we have standards that are going to be great across the board, that we can also use to judge and see how we're doing in relationship to other countries, and really be able to benchmark it and to say, what's it going to look like to kind of raise the bar? So that's the first piece, national standards and assessments. And we know it's hard, and you're never going to get it 100% right, but we know there's no question that we have to do it. There's not an option. So we know it's going to be difficult to get the 100% just getting it absolutely right, but we know we've got to do everything we can to kind of get that across the board for our kids, national standards and assessments. That's the first piece. Second piece is around teaching. And this issue has been popping up in a lot of our conversations, and we know how critical it is. And you all know how important it is to who our teachers are that our kids have when they're in the system. And so there are kind of 3 things I wanted to mention on the teaching front. One is the president believes, and we all have had this experience in our own educational experiences, when you've had some great teachers, right? I mean, you think about the great teachers you've had who impacted your life, who changed your life. I know that's happened to me so many times. I was so fortunate. And those great teachers pushed you, took you to another level, made you do math and science when you didn't really want to, right? And kind of got you to, because you knew it's what they knew you had the potential, and they got you to a different level. The president believes, we believe that those teachers who are great teachers, they're the best teachers, that we need to honor them. We need to say, way to go. We need to pay them more for kind of doing a better job, for helping our kids move even further down the educational pipeline. So we want to reward our teachers for being great teachers. Now, the flip side of that is the hard part of the conversation. That unfortunately, this has happened before. I was talking to some folks earlier today. I had some bad teachers, and some of them are now working in a liquor store. That's a whole other story. We'll talk about that later. But unfortunately, in our communities, a lot of times, our kids are having teachers who aren't getting it done. And so the question is, how do we help those teachers try to become better? So our first reaction is, if they're not getting it done, let's help them try to get better. Let's give them some professional development. Let's help them think about some new ways of teaching that can help them become better teachers. And if that doesn't work, there's no other way to say it, they have to leave. We have to move them out. We do not want them teaching our kids if they're not getting it done. There's no nice way to say it. There's no way to kind of sugarcoat it. If you're a teacher and you're not getting it done, at the end of the day for us, for the president, for the secretary, this is all about our kids. So as adults, we can fight over here on these other kind of things, but we have to remind ourselves, everything we do each day is aimed at kind of helping our kids. So we're having those tough conversations with our friends at the unions about saying, you got to help us here. Because we know, we read the research. I just read that recent report. If you've got great teachers in front of you, your kids could be a couple years ahead of grade level. And if they get bad teachers in front of them, they could be a couple years behind. So the gap of what could happen is huge. So we want to make sure that our kids have great teachers in front of them. So once again, in the same way with the standards, the worst thing we could do would be to kind of tell teachers and tell the schools, this is what good teaching looks like. Here's what bad teaching looks like. So we're bringing the teachers with us. We're bringing the principals, the leaders together to say, help us figure it out. We know this has to happen. It's a hard thing to do, but we don't want to do it to you. We want to do it with you. So, okay, teachers, you're there every day. You deal with these tough issues. Help us figure it out. What does a fair system look like? What does a reasonable system look like? What does it mean for us to kind of really kind of help understand what a good teacher is and a bad teacher? I was just reading an email today that got sent to me, and what just got announced recently is that we also have a great partner in the Gates Foundation. So the Gates Foundation, they have a little bit of money, right? Bill Gates. So, and actually I was pleasantly surprised at the amount, because we weren't sure about what, we know the conversations have been going on, but we weren't sure what the amount was going to be. But they just announced that they're very interested in this teacher effectiveness piece because they know how important it is. So they just announced a series of grants that are going to be taking place to help us figure out, working with teachers through the Gates Foundation themselves, what's good teaching look like? What does bad teaching look like, to help us get a better understanding? And they're going to put $500 million toward it. And to help school districts also kind of try to then carry this out. So we've also got some great partners in the foundation world who are gathering with us because they know, they're hearing it from the community in the same way we are, how critical teachers are to this whole puzzle that we're trying to kind of get our kids through. So those are the two pieces on teaching. There's a third piece. The third piece is that we are very fortunate right now that there's a unique opportunity. There are a large number of teachers who are about to retire across the country. So we've got an opportunity here to help create the next generation of teachers. So the question is, how do we convince our kids, some of the best and the brightest in our community, to sign up to become teachers? And once again, we know how important teaching is, but just telling them that they should do it is not enough, right? I mean, this is kind of like eat your broccoli, right? It can be a good thing for you, but we know we're going to have to do more than just kind of tell them this is a good thing. So we're working out the details. All the details haven't been worked out yet, but you're going to be hearing announcements of different incentives to encourage our best and brightest to become teachers. A couple ideas that we're working on are, one is just loan forgiveness. You take out a bunch of loans to go to college to get your degree, and you now have to pay back your loans. You become a teacher, we forgive a chunk of your loans, and so that doesn't become an obstacle. Oh, I would love to be a teacher. I was talking to a student yesterday, and we were over at Northridge, and he was telling me, I have $100,000 in loans. And so I would love to be a teacher, but I've got to pay this back, and teaching doesn't pay enough. So we want to make sure, so we're working out, some possibilities around some loan forgiveness as one incentive to help our best and brightest kind of become teachers. And a second idea we're working on is, and you know what? If you take on the toughest assignment, if you become a teacher and you go to the toughest schools, the places that need you the most, they need the best teachers there. They're struggling right now. They're not getting it done. All the indicators are saying they're having a hard time. We need you in those schools. You sign up to teach in those schools, we're going to pay you more because that's the toughest assignment. We're asking you to take on the hardest thing happening in the system, so we need to reward you for taking on a harder assignment. So those are a couple ideas that we're working on. You're going to see the details kind of getting worked out, but that's kind of the second pillar of the K through 12 education agenda, which is around teaching. Related to that is the third pillar, which we're calling turnaround schools. We are taking on the 5% of the schools in the country that are the worst schools. By all indicators, they're designated as being at the bottom of the list. People have given up on them. Terrible test scores, just not getting it done. And people's perception is those kids don't want to learn. They're not very smart. They're not going to make it anyway. Their parents don't care about education. The families don't. The communities don't. They just want to hurry up and get to a job. No one really cares about these folks. Forget about them. We know those are completely wrong, and those myths are absolutely lies, and that our kids are brilliant, and they want to learn, and our families want the best for their kids and are doing everything they can, taking on the extra jobs and all the hours to make sure they give the best to their kids. So we're going to show that when you put the resources in the worst schools in the country, and you get the community on board, and you get all of you here partnering with us, that we can turn these schools around. And this is not just something that we're going to take on the worst schools, but it's already happening. It's happening in LA, it's happening around the country. Schools that are really being designated as, the other day, I was 2 days ago, when I was over at the hotel, and I was in the gym late at night, getting work, and I had the TV on, and they were talking about a story about Locke High School in Watts. I don't know if you guys saw that. They were talking about it on TV. And when you just heard about what Green Dot is doing to kind of turn that school around, I mean, just in the last year, and to see the scores that are going up. And I was talking to one of the folks from Green Dot the other day, and he was talking about the parental involvement and kind of how they stepped up, all the things that they say just doesn't happen in our communities and in these schools. The opposite is happening. So we know there are examples of the turnaround taking place right now. We want to learn from them, and we want to come together in the 5,000 schools that are really struggling to show the country that the places that are the toughest places to work right now, we can turn them around. So that's the third of the 4 pillars. The fourth one is around data, right? This is the one I always say, this is where you know the president's really smart. He makes me have to talk about really boring things. So data, right? Data systems, get excited. So that's the 4th pillar, but we know it's an important one right now, because right now we know that it doesn't exist a system that tracks our kids across the board all the time, from early childhood to when they get into K through 12. People have their own systems, but they tend to be disconnected from each other. So what happens a lot of times is we're talking to community college presidents, and you just talk to the students, and they're kind of like, well, wait a minute, I didn't know I was supposed to have that kind of math by the time I got to community college. Well how come the... So now, and now, fortunately, once again, there are more conversations that are taking place between the community colleges and the K through 12 systems. We know there are high schools that are kind of being built on community colleges. They're actually coming here to have their high school years. So there's more conversations taking place. But at the end of the day, we know that we still everyone needs better data systems to be able to make sure, are we on the right track? Is it getting done? Are our students kind of getting what they need to kind of be successful? And one of the challenges, I know in California right now, we'll just be honest, this is family. So one of the challenges you all have right now is you have a law that was just passed recently that says, you know what? Test scores of students cannot be used at any level to help evaluate teachers. right? So the question is also the kind of data that you have to be able to evaluate things. Now, we do not believe that test scores are the only thing you should take into account. But we do believe, it's kind of like, I used to be a basketball player, even though I'm only 5'9". The score kind of matters at some point, right, in the game. So we know that while test scores aren't the only thing, they're one of a number of tools that we think have to be part of what the assessment looks like. And it's part of the data system for us to be able to track and to help teachers, to help schools, to help families understand, is my son or daughter getting what they need as they're moving up through the educational system? Once again, working with all the folks in the school system to say, what do you need? We don't want this to become a crazy burden where you don't have the resources, or now someone's got to go collect all this data and you're not really using it. So we want to make sure that it's a hard thing to do again, but that it's done well. So data systems is kind of the fourth piece on the K through 12. National standards and assessments, teaching, turnaround schools, data systems. Those are the four big pillars on the K through 12 system. You all are very fortunate here in California. I've been telling people, I've been passing this around. We're getting the conspiracy theories going, that California is taking over the country. Someone has to run the K through 12 system, right? Someone has to be in charge of it for the education department. So a woman just started on Monday. She's the new assistant secretary for elementary and secondary education. I think a lot of you may know her in the room. Her name is Dr. Thelma Melendez. And she's just finished up her term as a superintendent of the Pomona schools. She's from Huntington Beach. So California, she understands our communities. She's been coming straight out of the K through 12 system. You all need to know you have a great friend who is in charge of running this K through 12 system for the country. She understands California. She understands Latino communities, African American communities. She understands kind of a lot of what we're dealing with at the K through 12 system. Final piece is on post-secondary. Community colleges are crucial. We know how critical they are and the huge role that they play. We know that de facto, the community colleges are the trainers in the community now. With so many small businesses and not having the resources, so many of the workers who are coming to kind of up their skills, to upgrade their skills, the community colleges play such an important role. And in the Latino community, it's even more important because there aren't enough of us going to college, but if we do go to college, this is where we start. More than half of us come to the community college system. My wife, who also is a political appointee, she works at Health and Human Services. She's a graduate of Morton Community College in Chicago. That's where she went before she transferred over to Columbia College in Chicago to get her undergraduate degree. So we know, particularly in the Latino community, that what happens here at the community college is critical to whether or not we're going to get through this system. Like I mentioned on the early childhood side, at the post-secondary side, the president has just announced recently the largest investment in community colleges in American history. So $12 billion that's been announced over the next 10 years to make sure that we're strengthening our community colleges to play the role and to play an even bigger role than they're currently playing right now. So that's kind of happening at the post-secondary level. Two other things I wanted to mention here. One is because it comes up all the time. So once again, I'm going to save you a lot of time so you don't have to lobby me on this. We estimate that there are about 65,000 students across the country each year who are the most brilliant students in their high schools. They're finishing number one. They're valedictorians. They're salutatorians. They're doing more community service than any of the other kids combined. They are leaders today in their communities, not future leaders. They're getting it done right now. They have one problem. They're not documented. So I think a lot of you have heard about the DREAM Act. Save your comments today. You don't have to lobby me or lobby us. President Obama and the Obama administration, we support the DREAM Act. So you don't have to worry about that. But here's where we need your help. We support the DREAM Act. President Obama, when he was a state senator, was putting together a version of the DREAM Act at the state level in Illinois. And now we're working closely with his former U.S. Senate colleague, Dick Durbin, to kind of lead it for us on the Senate side. We're on board with the DREAM Act, so you don't have to worry about us. But we need your help to kind of get to the other Congress folks, to kind of help them understand why it's important that these students who are the cream of the crop, who are the best of the best, who are leaders in our community today, need to have the same opportunities of other kids who are in our communities. They are setting the example for them, for them to be able to come to the community colleges and the four-year colleges, to be able to get the in-state tuition, to be able to get the financial support they have, to kind of continue to play a leadership role in our communities. So we need your help kind of working on the other congressional folks to help them understand our stories and what's the values behind what's happening there to kind of support those kids. One other thing I want to mention on the post-secondary side, and that's money. Got to have money. You got to have money to go to college. And so I've been telling folks, education's been important to so many of us. It's helped us get to where we are today. I've been very fortunate to go to some incredible schools. So I did my undergraduate at Harvard, not a bad place. I was the third Latino Rhodes Scholar, went to Oxford, to England for a couple years, and I'm also a Stanford Law School graduate, right? A lot of school. So I went to all these places and had an incredible set of educational experiences. But you know, you keep thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? What's the real reason? What is my purpose? What is the mission here? Why am I having to go to all these schools? And then my son, Michael, graduated from high school. He's getting ready to go to college. And then the light bulb went off. I had to go to Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford Law School for one reason, to figure out how to fill out the financial aid form. Right? So any of you who've had to do that with your kids, you know what I'm talking about. Not a fun thing to do. Thing you always want to put off. Do I really have to do this? Do I really have to do this? We have drastically changed the financial aid form. So starting on January the 1st, 100% of it will be online. Most of it's actually getting up there right now. But we will have reduced the paperwork by 67%, almost 70% reduction in the number of pages. So right now, I'm happy. We talk about it in the senior staff meetings. People are saying, theoretically, I was filling that thing out last week. So it's been drastically decreased in the number of pages now that you have to fill out. We're also using skip technology, which happens to you on the internet right now. You know, you put in some information, and it skips over the questions that are not related to you and goes to the questions that are the next ones related to you. So even in those kind of 5 or 6 pages that will be there, it will be even shorter in the amount of information you're going to have to put forth. We were laughing about it because we were looking at some of these questions. We were like, why is this question? I don't know, you know. And so it was like, what is this related to? Nothing. So that helped us kind of take out a lot of the questions. So shorter form, skip technology, and this is my favorite one. You know, always have to put the tax stuff in. And you know, because we're all so well organized, right? And you got to go to that box to kind of figure it out. Please put in 37B from your, yeah. Honey, where's it? Oh, look under the bed, okay. Now you'll be able to push a button on the computer. It links to the IRS. They pull up your taxes for you. So all of that's kind of coming together to make it easy because we do not, another email they sent me today, because we keep getting updates on this, but our last best guesstimate was that before we made these changes, in the last year, we were estimating there was about 1 million kids who were eligible who weren't getting it because they weren't getting through the financial aid form. They were just giving up. This is too much. This is crazy. So we want to make sure, we know this is critical. So we want to close that gap. And here's another crazy idea we had. Maybe we should put this thing in Spanish. So you're going to have a great Spanish version, a great English version, smaller number of pages, skip technology, the ability to kind of get your tax returns kind of automatically uploaded to the system so you don't have to worry about it. We do not want this to be an obstacle for folks. We know that a lot of neighborhood organizations and community-based organizations are spending a lot of time and money hiring people whose job is to kind of sit there with the families to kind of fill these things out. So we're hoping it helps them kind of relieve some of that pressure and allows them to do some other things kind of that are really important in the community. So I wanted to mention that because that's an important piece on the dollars. Tied to that is we've also increased the amount of Pell Grants. So Pell Grants have now, for the first time, have passed the $5,000 level. It's $5,500. The president also thinks they haven't gone up in a while. We've now increased it, but the president believes we're not going to wait 8 years to do this again. So you're going to see the Pell Grants going up each year at a minimum of the rate of inflation and at least 1% above that. Because the president understands how critical it is that our kids have the money that is rightfully theirs to kind of make sure that they get the education that we know they need. The final thing I was going to mention here before we get a chance to hear from you all talk is I got to find out how many Canadians are in the room. Are there any Canadians in the room? We had one yesterday. No Canadians. Okay, you need to, when you leave here today, you have to go say, the guy from the White House Initiative came and said to tell everyone, we're going after the Canadians, right? So President Obama has challenged us to once again become the #1 country in the world with the highest percentage of our population receiving a college degree. Canada's at the top of the list right now. So that's why we're coming after the Canadians. But all these pieces here, community colleges being strengthened, the changes in kind of financial aid, the increase with the Pell Grants, affordability, all these kind of pieces are there because we know that what our kids are going to need to be successful in the 21st century is beyond high school. They're going to need ongoing education. And so he's kind of challenged us to once again to step up to make sure that we can continue to be the kind of world power we want to be, to have the kind of strong economy, and to make sure, and we know that in our community, the Latino community, the African American community, the future American workforce is us. And we've had these conversations. I remember a month ago where we had some demographers at the White House, and they said, California today, America tomorrow. So you all know already what we're talking about in terms of the challenges and what our kids need and what the economy needs for us to kind of be successful. Final thing I'll mention is you all know that most of the dollars at the end of the day come from the state and the local level. That's the way the educational system is set up in the United States. But we're in a unique moment here in that there are more dollars from the federal level than have ever been there before aimed at education. I mentioned, right, don't tell me what you believe in, show me your budget. $857 billion in the Recovery Act and the stimulus dollars, $100 billion of those dollars earmarked for education. The president understands that it's not just about turning the economy around today. We have to invest those $100 billion now to make sure we're setting up the foundation for our kids to have the kind of world we want moving forward. So there's $100 billion that haven't been there before that are now part of the system. Final thing, example is the Race to the Top. Some folks were asking me about that. So Race to the Top is a program we just announced, $4.35 billion. It's a competition between the states to encourage the states to say, what's the future look like? What is the California education plan? What's it going to be? What's the vision? What do you want to do? And what are the resources to try to make that happen? So it's a competition between the states. We see this as kind of our moonshot, right? This is a chance to say, no, it's tough, but we're going to, this is a race to the top. We're going to the moon because we have to do that for our kids in the educational system. The $4.35 billion in that one program alone, Race to the Top, they're discretionary dollars. You can play with them. You can move around with them. They're flexible, right? Those, in that one program, the $4.35 billion, is more money, more discretionary dollars than the total combined amount of discretionary dollars from all of the education secretaries before us. The Education Department became a standalone in 1980, so the 8 secretaries that became before Secretary Duncan, if you added up every single one of their discretionary dollars, it's less than what's in the Race to the Top program. So that we understand that this is a unique moment. There are more dollars from the federal government than have ever been there before because we have to do it right now because they're just critical challenges for us in the educational system. That's where we are, and we're hoping you can kind of join us as we're kind of moving forward. I just wanted to kind of give you all some of the headlines of kind of where we are with President Obama's education agenda. Go to ed.gov, whitehouse.gov to kind of get more of the details, but those are the big headlines kind of across the educational pipeline. Now I want to turn it over to you all. I have one question. We've now talked about the entire educational system and the educational pipeline. When you think about what it's going to take for us to get more of our Latino kids successfully through this system, I have one question. What are the big challenges? What are the most important issues? What would you say the priorities should be for the Obama administration moving forward if we want to get more of our kids through this system? So that's the question that I want you all to be thinking about. Here's the process we're going to use. I've got 6 chairs up here. In a second, I'm going to ask for 6 volunteers from the community for you all to give us your thoughts on that big question. And I'm going to give you a huge amount of time. No, I'm not. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And you're going to get 60 seconds twice. So everyone will get 60 seconds the first round to start to put out their ideas. Their job is just to kind of get the conversation started for us. I'll come back around and give them a second 60 seconds. They'll now get a chance to respond to each other. Oh, you know what the president was saying? I hadn't thought about that. If we don't look at that, if we don't work on that piece, we'll get in trouble. Or what they're saying over there, they'll start to kind of respond to each other. Our job out here will just be to listen. When they finish, they'll come back and join their tables, and then we'll turn it over to you at the tables. You'll get a chance with folks from the community to respond to what they were talking about, to add anything you want to the conversation that's around what are the big issues, what are the challenges, what are the priorities. You'll see that there are a bunch of index cards on your table. At the end of the conversation, I'm going to ask everyone in the room to fill out those index cards for you to give us your individual answer. Now that you've heard folks start the conversation, now that you've continued the conversation at your table, what do you want to tell the president? What do you want to tell the secretary? What are your answers to us at the White House Initiative of what the challenges are, the priorities, the big issues? You know, a lot of times you'll have the flip chart pads up and you get a chance to say something, and they're writing it down. My wife is always the best at this. She starts saying, I believe ABC, and they're writing down DEF, and she's like, that's not what I said. So this is a chance for you to tell us directly. No one's interpreting what you're saying. As long as we can read your handwriting, then we'll be able to take it back to D.C. We're getting it typed up. If we've got your contact information, hopefully you signed up when you got here. We'll be able to send it back to you so you'll see what everybody in the room, what their answers were to the question. You'll be able to see what other folks in L.A. and California and other communities, what they were saying. And once again, this is all about kind of creating the agenda for our work moving forward. So that's kind of the process we're going to use today. And the idea with the 6 comes out of American Indian tradition, that we can pull 6 members out of our community, and we're likely to get 6 different set of life experiences, 6 different way of looking at things, 6 different way of kind of tackling whatever the important issues are. And so that's kind of the process we're going to use today. I need 6 volunteers. Who would like to kind of come up? Please join us. Come on up. Give them a big round of applause as they're starting to kind of come up. I've got 1, I've got 2, I've got 3, 4, 5. I need 1 more and 6. All right. 60 seconds each, twice.
Gee, even council gives 3 minutes. Okay, what do I see? I see 3 things, and I'll be quick. First, I think that the focus on literacy is essential, especially I'm a councilperson for the city of Long Beach, and when you have an enlightened and informed citizenry, then it ensures a potent democracy. And I think that for our communities and the cutbacks we're having with the public libraries, either in the schools and in our communities, it is just incredible what's happening now. So 1, literacy. We need to be able to have our parents and our families be able to read and write. Second is counseling services. Anyone who's been through high school knows that it's like speed dating. If you get an appointment with your counselor, and if you're absent or sick, you're SOL, and you may have that essential appointment that will tell you how to get into college, or perhaps if you're even ready. Counseling services at high schools and at community colleges and at four-year colleges are so important. My kids are at Long Beach Community College, and they know people here and have had problems even making an appointment with their counselor. And it's not because of the counselor, it's because they're so overwhelmed, caseloads of hundreds, if not thousands of kids. So counseling services, they get on campus and they're going, now what? The third thing is retention services. It does us no good to get the very few people or Latinos on campuses if they don't see it through. And when I was working in TRIO programs, it was 30 years ago. It took, I think 5.5 years on average to get through a 4-year college. Now it's more like 6.5, 7. So if they don't have retention services that are targeted and go throughout the college system, then we're going to lose our kids once we get them on campus. So again, literacy, counseling services, and retention services. Thank you.
Wow. That's great. Okay. Well, first of all, I think the most important thing is to call a spade and to clearly articulate where we're at right now. One of the programs we initiated here several years back was the Equity for All program, which we started to disaggregate our data and really look at how the different ethnic groups are doing. I think that's the first question. You have to look in the mirror and say, where are we, and speak the truth, and not be afraid of the truth, because from there you can start to develop answers. 9 in 10 freshmen who are Hispanic here at Long Beach City College are placed into basic skills math. 93% are placed into basic skills writing, and approximately half are placed into basic skills reading. If we want them to succeed, we've got to do a better job of preparing them to succeed. It is not enough to provide access. Access is a myth to success. if you're just providing access, then you are not providing a foundation for those students to succeed. And we've got to do a better job of providing access and support so that they can succeed. It's not enough to say you have an EOPS program. It's not enough to say you have a Puente program. If we're only serving 2,000 to 3,000 of the students, we are never going to get to where we need to go.
I think one of the things that we've not capitalized upon is involving the families in the educational process of the students. I think for many of the students, particularly first-generation college attendees, the families do not have an idea of what the expectations are or where it is what the student needs to do. And I think that better partnerships need to exist between the student, the family, and the educational institutions. And if we have this three-legged stool that works together, then I think that the students will be much more successful because they'll have the support at home. The home will understand what it is that we're all trying to work toward and how to support the student in that particular effort. Okay.
I totally agree. It was on Sunday I went to a funeral of I'm on the front lines. I'm a teacher. I've lived in the projects, low-income communities. Fortunate enough to go to Berkeley, and now try to bring that back and try to help a lot of the students. So the reality is that I went to a funeral of a kid who on his 20th birthday, who would have thought that 2 days later he was going to be shot 29 times. So I agree with the community involvement. If even at the funeral, I was talking to some of my students, and they didn't see that connection. They're like, "What are you doing here?" And you know, they associate school with school, and they associate community with community. So that's wrong. Teachers have the 6 hours, 7, 8 hours, and sometimes I wish I had more time with each student. I have 150 students that I need to tend to, but a minute a person. So the kids just accept it as a reality. We're not in Baghdad. We're not in Somalia. We're an industrialized nation that needs to bring up the communities, have more jobs for these students that aren't successful in schools.
I'm going to be the third person talking about parent involvement and family involvement. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country with an education, and it was very difficult for me to figure out the school system. And it was because I was there that my children were tracked to a system, to a place where it was a dead end. So I think that a critical strategy I would like to add a fourth pillar. If you specifically talk about research-based programs that have proven to bring the family to an equal footing with the educator, even if the mother is a second-grade person that doesn't have any background on formal education, they have all the capacity in the world to engage an educator, to find the resources for their children, to ask the right questions. I work with a program, PK, that works with the families, and many of the families whose children are failing have no idea that their children are below grade level at that much, like 7 years, 6 years below grade level. And once they know, is the light bulbs on, and they say, what do I need to do? Who do I need to engage? Even if these parents have second or third grade education, they are your best partners. Thank you.
Well, I agree with everybody else, so I don't need to speak then, right? First of all, Ricardo Medina, superintendent from Coachella Valley Unified School District in the Indio Palm Springs area. So I don't know if there's any other superintendents in the audience. As a Latino superintendent, I'm one of 70 superintendents in the state of California that's Latino out of 1,000 school districts. So given the demographics that we have in this state and in this country, there is a dearth of Latino school system leaders and Latinos in education kind of at all levels. And I would say that years ago, when Title VII was around, a lot of people came through the ranks as teacher aides, as paraprofessionals, eventually got teaching degrees and became bilingual teachers in the school system. And I know that Arnie Duncan's emphasis is on teacher quality, and I firmly believe in teacher quality and teacher equity. But there's a pipeline issue to bringing more Latinos into our respective school systems, and also African Americans. While I'm at it, students of color coming in to be the role models that our students richly need. And I went through the school system in the state of Texas, and I never had a single teacher other than a white European German teacher. And my success is due to the fact that some of them took me under their arm and coached me and mentored me. So it's not just about being a Latino role model, because other people certainly have been role models for me in many different respects. But we need to build capacity. Many of us as Latino superintendents, I can tell you, the Carlos Garcias of the world, Stan Passes, Mike Hinojosa, all those individuals, we are very much into accountability and holding our school systems accountable for closing the achievement gaps and educating all children to levels beyond where we've done before, and to hold our respective systems accountable. We certainly hope the White House and Arnie Duncan and the U.S. Department of Education are going to be our partners, because many of us supported NCLB, because we are firm believers that we need to close the achievement gap and that we need to hold school systems accountable for educating all children. So ALAS, by the way, I'm also the president of ALAS, the National Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. It's a national organization representing Latino school system leaders. I happen to be the president of that organization, and Carlos Garcia from San Francisco is the president-elect. So I'm going to be turning it over to him at some point in time. Thank you.
I'm going to give you another 60 seconds to respond to anything you heard or anything else you'd like to add to the conversation.
I just want to say that Latino faculty and staff are essential, but they are not miracle workers, that they're sometimes alone in institutions without support and are expected to do twice, if not 3 times more than a regular counselor or teacher or administrator, because families look to them as role models and depend on them to be the connectors of the community. And so my hat's off to you. The second thing I wanted to say quickly was what was I going to say? Geez, 60 seconds is quick. Was that it's important that as people are going through the institutions, whether it's high school, community college, and UC system, that we understand that these systems are not really equipped to work with working families. I mean, we have the old traditional model of what a family is, but yet now when people go to school, when we have Latinos in the educational system, we have students that are working 2 or 3 jobs. We have families that are working 2 or 3 jobs, especially in this economy, and yet the systems work on a 9-to-5 system. And so we have to look at how we provide services and ensure that we're providing services to the entire working family, especially the student.
Well, I also want to echo everything that's been said. I just want to focus on 2 things. One is we can't continue with the same system that we've had in place for a number of years. The world has changed. The need for education has changed. We can't just focus on the traditional pathways. We've got to create more pathways. We've got to look at different ways of delivering education. And we've got to really look at how we finance education, because we finance education on the credit side, on those students who are prepared. We need to invest much more heavily in the students that are underprepared, because those are our students. Secondly, we're creating a cohort of debtors. And you mentioned the gentleman with $100,000 in debt. The only way we're going to move Latinos forward, African Americans included, is to create wealth. You're not going to create wealth if you continue to pile on debt on all these students who graduate. So it's wonderful that they can graduate from Harvard, but if they've got $100,000 in debt, then I'm not sure what we're accomplishing.
I think having the community come together is exceedingly important. In Long Beach, you may be familiar with the fact that the 3 educational systems, the Long Beach Unified School District and Long Beach City College and Cal State University Long Beach, have worked together with the Seamless Education initiatives. And the most recent one is the College Promise, where we have indicated that if the students will work at it, et cetera, we will make sure that they have a seat in either Long Beach City or Cal State University Long Beach, having met the admission requirements. But getting that information out is exceedingly important when you consider that most of the students really, their ability, the opportunity to enter a university really begins at grade 5. And if they're not prepared at that point or begin to prepare properly, the opportunity really, number of opportunities is reduced tremendously. And so it really is a systemic process that a community needs to work together. And with the Seamless Education Initiative as such, as one example, the College Promise, all the institutions are working together so that the gaps that may exist between the educational system, so that as one student goes from one to the other, is minimized and hopefully eliminated so that the student has this particular opportunity. We also find that many times initiatives come forward and they look like they're Band-Aids to a situation when really it needs to be a more systemic approach to the solution in working with the student. And then we need to look for solutions for the students that are in the pipeline, and we need to look for methods, more effective methods for the students that are yet to come into the pipeline. And so we need to work in both areas.
So I was just thinking about ways to expose, and we're talking about a lot of exposure, a lot of soft skills that need to be improved, and I've seen mentorship programs. We're talking about money and everything. I think we need some more awareness, and we need to bring in more mentors into the underserved communities, and that doesn't cost a thing. The reason I'm moving away from teaching and not dedicating so much time to teach, it's a really difficult job, and if you're there alone, it's going to be very hard. It doesn't cost a thing to get some volunteers, more volunteers into the community, and help those people help the students with the soft skills, help them understand that if they know 8 gang members in their family and they know 1 college graduate, that they don't have to follow the majority. They don't have to follow the definition of what they are in that community, but that they do have someone to look up to and to follow, and there's really not too much cost in that.
I would like just to address the sense of urgency that we feel that as educators, and I'm a teacher too, we get accustomed to used to the fact that 50% of our children are not making it. I mean, if you count from kindergarten to 12, 50%. It's like going into a hospital and asking for a surgery and asking the doctor, and the doctor says, well, this is very good. We killed just 1 out of 2. So if we live in a low-income community, that is the reality for that mother or that father. They have 50-50 chances that the children will make it. So just very simple. You mentioned several times the president is really bright, and he impresses me as a very smart person. I feel that we're in good hands. I think we are very bright. So we need to find a way to make that communication to parents in such a simple form that they get the sense of urgency, that this is their livelihood of the children in the future. And if we don't do something together, then our children are not going to make it. And we are not going to make it as a nation.
There's like 4 points I'd like to make. First of all, investing in early childhood education. One of the best things that we can do for Latino school kids and anybody is to give them the skills that they need to be successful in the system, and give them the kind of skills that middle class Americans, that most of the rest of us, give to our kids and our grandkids. Secondly, that we need to, the PIE, parents involved in education, parents as partners, we need to do more to facilitate that. Number 3, I would challenge the Obama administration and Secretary Duncan to convene a national Hispanic Education Summit in the year 2010 to bring all of the stakeholders that are interested in improving education for Hispanic in general, in improving the public school system across the country, so that we can convene that kind of a think tank, of that kind of a group, and partner with all of the Latino serving organizations in the country, the MALDES, the NCLRs, the GI Forum, the LULAC, ALAS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then 4th is the whole issue of funding and the inequities in funding. I don't know if any of you have read the book by Jonathan Kozol that talks about the savage inequalities that we have in our public school systems. When you look at an urban school district versus a suburban school district, look at the facilities in which those children are educated. and why in this country, 45 years after the Civil Rights Act, Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, we have a more segregated school system in this country now than ever before. And there are some savage inequalities in terms of the facilities, in terms of teacher quality, teacher equity, the teacher experience, the credential teachers. And those are the teachers that, for the most part, are assigned to the Latino and African American students across this country. So we need to invest in those schools get less funding because of the tax base than the suburban, brothers and sisters. And the facilities are deteriorating at a pace that you would not want to send your children to some of these schools. So why in America do we have to tolerate that? So we need some help and assistance kind of along that line to level the playing field. Thank you.
Big round of applause for our first six today. If you want to come on back and join your tables. So you now have had a chance to hear from 6 members of the community, put out some ideas for you to think about when we think about the entire educational system, some of the key challenges, some of the priorities, some of the different issues that we know we need to take on to make sure more of our kids successfully get through the system. Now it's your chance at the table. I'm going to turn it over to you all. We're going to give you a chunk of time, 12, 15 minutes or so, to have your conversation at the table with folks from the community, to respond to what you heard here, to kind of put other issues onto the table, anything you want to kind of talk about. I'm only going to ask you to do 2 things. One is, when we come to these conversations, we usually come with our friends. So if you're sitting with a bunch of people who are your colleagues and you work with right now, I'm going to break you up because I'm going to leave in a little bit, but you guys are going to be here, so I want to make sure you get to know other folks in the community. So I'm going to ask you to move to different tables so that you can have a conversation with some different folks in the community. That's the first piece. The second one is, as you jump in, there are a lot of us who love to talk. So please be nice and make sure everyone gets a chance to participate, but move around to some different tables, jump into the conversation. It's your chance to kind of tell us what you think are some of the important issues and some of the important challenges moving forward. Please begin. Here's what I ask you to do. The first set of cards are purely your advice to us. So any of the key issues, any of the challenges, any solutions that you see that you all are working on that you think other communities can learn about, anything where you'd say these are the priorities you want to mention and say, I think these are the most important things that we should be focusing on moving forward to kind of help Latino kids get through the educational system. That's the first set of cards. And as many as you want to write, put as much as you want down onto the cards, just any advice you want to give to us directly. That's the first set of cards. The second card is something that when we did our first conversation in Laredo, a number of folks asked us at the end, what can we do to kind of to join and to be part of this moving forward? So in the second card, and once again, I always tell folks, this is family, so don't feel like you have to do it. We know you're busy. But if you are interested, if you do have if you have some time, if you're interested in connecting with folks from other communities across the country to tackle some of these issues, on that second card, I'm going to ask you to put your contact information, put your name, put your email address, put your best phone number where we can reach you. But the most important thing I need on that second sheet is for you to list of all the issues you could work on, the ones that you're most interested in connecting with other folks across the country. Literally name those issues, because that'll help us as we're kind of putting folks together who have similar interests. Make sure you kind of list, these are the issues I'm most interested in that I'd love to kind of connect with folks from other parts of the country to work on some of those issues. So first set of cards, just any advice you want to give us. Second card, your contact information, plus a list of any of the issues that you're most interested in and where you'd like to kind of get connected with other folks. When you're finished, just put them up, hold your hand up. We'll come by and grab them. And thank you very much. Give yourselves a big round of applause for coming out and getting us started this morning here. Then we'll be finished. I'll be around if you get any questions here, but please just put your cards up. And thanks for coming this morning. Thank you.